Hi, it's Kevin Davis. I hope you're going to enjoy our webinar today on Deck the Halls. What we're doing is talking about the different exposures community associations face during these holiday times. So what we're going to do is talk about the five different exposures that board members of community association face. Now, they face all five of these all year long, but because of the holiday time and our mind is on joy and celebration and our family and caring, we're saying today, take a deep breath and still stay committed to the reasons why you are a board member is for the betterment and improvement of the association. So looking forward to it today. It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. And it's perfect timing too, because my husband and I were asked to volunteer to put up decorations in the clubhouse. And I'm thinking, we're going to be on a ladder, anything could happen. So, it's perfect topic for what everybody's dealing with this time of year, if you live in an HOA or a condo association.
Oh, yeah. And I guess we're going to talk about again. There are five specific exposures that we're going to talk about. And Sherry, by the time get done, you'll be able to go back to your husband and says, I got this. We can nail this thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Now,
Well,
if you don't do it, don't have your husband call me.
yeah, if we have questions.
Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Kevin, you say that the board members, they have normal responsibilities the rest of the year. And then let's discuss that, like what, just as a refresher on what their responsibilities are.
Yeah, and that's the whole point where as board members of community associations, you do have certain responsibility. And they boil down to three things. And if you do these three things correctly, guess what? At the end of the day, you should have no problem this holiday season. Number one, you have to enforce the rules. Okay. There are a lot of rules association have. And in Christmas time, holiday time, guess what happens? There are more rules.
Hmm.
Because again, we talk about the parties, the gathering, the decorations, everything. So enforcing those rules is going to be really, really critical. Number two, maintenance. You have to maintain the common areas. Again, there are going to be a lot of ladders out there, a lot of cords, extension cords,
Cords,
and a lot of
extension
power
cord.
cords. Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
So maintenance is key. And then financial. You have to make sure that you're on top of the financials because what happens is that the criminals out there know that right now you're spending money. So they will go out there and say, guess what? You give me X number of dollars, I'll put your Christmas decorations up. And next thing you know, you paid the money and nobody ever showed up. So
Hmm.
these kind of things we've been talking about today, and it all boils down to those three things that every single board member has to be aware of. Have I enforced those rules uniformly and consistently? Have I maintained the common area? Have I managed the financials correctly? If you do those three things, then what we talk about the next five exposures, we're in good shape.
Absolutely. Great. And now we're going to get into the holiday exposures, like what specifically is happening this time of year with all the parties. And hopefully nobody's holiday party is like that raccoon in Virginia that broke into the liquor store and then,
Yeah, had a
knocked
good
over the
time.
liquor and then, and then passed out. Hopefully they're calmer parties and no problems.
I know I saw that raccoon this morning. I go, oh boy, it
Yeah.
is, yes. And we can't hold that board, the board can't be held responsible for something a raccoon can do.
Raccoon comes in and
Exactly. But this is
Mhm.
the point. They can hold that unit owner, that the renter, the guest that comes in, they have to be aware. And these are the five areas you have to be concerned about. Number one, there's property damage exposure, actually damage to the physical property in the common areas. Number two, liability. Will they be sued because it's something they did incorrectly? Somebody get drunk? Was there a violent act? Somebody start fighting? There's crime and security concerns. Is it well lit? Are people stealing packages?
Right.
There's employee and volunteer. You hired employees to put things together. They up ladders. Do you have workers' comp? You know, and there's cyber exposure. There's a lot of cyber exposure right there. A lot of people being tricked with phishing emails to say, guess what? I'm still waiting for my payment for the great decoration I put in. Oh, wait a minute, we paid you already. Social
Hmm.
engineering. So those are the
Hmm.
five areas we're going to be talking about. And again, Sherry, take notes, okay? You and your husband,
Hmm.
you guys are in charge of these things. Make sure that you understand. I'm going to give you a test when we're all done, okay? You going to be ready?
A quiz. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Hmm.
Yeah. And now property damage. Now, what exactly should people be concerned about, with property damage, Kevin? What,
Okay, sure. When we talk about property damage in a community association, to me, they really boil down into two areas that I'm always concerned about. Number one, the big one is fire. Fire from overheated circuits, candles. There's trees placed too close to a fireplace or too close to the heaters. Um, there are certain things out there. Holiday meals, okay? We make holiday meal, you put things in the oven and you leave them there too long. Fire
Mhm,
to me is that big exposure from the property. That is
mhm,
it more than anything else. That's number one. So you got to be careful there, Sherry, you and your husband, to make sure that fire is taken care of. There's not a lot of fire exposure around there. Now, the other property damage part is the water, you know, because of, it's the wintertime and you had a lot of cold and a lot of snow and a lot of things happening last week during the holiday. We had snow. We had snow in our mountains for the first
Oh,
time ever in Thanksgiving. So there was
yeah,
snow
that's
back then.
early. I couldn't believe how cold it was out there. I saw it was in the 40s and the
Mhm.
mountains were even colder. So to get
Yeah.
snow for Thanksgiving, that's unbelievable. Very
So you
early.
have to be you have to be aware that because there's a lot of water there's spills in the common area, you know? Um, because you have a lot of guests, there's family members, you got overflow, you got kids now that may be in your place that wasn't there before. So you got overflowing bathtubs and sinks, kitchen. So just be careful on the water side. Water's always look, when you talk about property damage issues, water is always your number one concern.
Mhm,
Overflowing is number one, but now's the holiday season. Overflowing will probably be a bigger deal than ever before. So when we talk
mhm.
about property risks, we're talking about two areas that we're concerned about, water and fire.
Absolutely. And like you said, I mean, with the trees being close to a fireplace, people using space heaters, that kind of a thing that's
Mhm.
very popular this time of year
Mhm.
with it getting chilly and they leave the space heaters on overnight. So yeah, there's just much more
Oh,
going on than any other time of year.
and candles. We love candles. We love scented
Candles, holiday
candles.
candles. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
And again, we still, we'd be surprised the number of fires come from the candles. That
yeah.
people leave them on all night long. They leave them too close to the drapes, close to the curtains, too close to the bedspread, and the fires. And smoking. People smoke more.
Fall asleep. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just beware. Again, number one, property damage risk, fire, and water.
Those are the top two. Okay.
Those are the two. Yeah.
Okay, I did want to mention again, if you have any questions about what we go over today, feel free to type your questions into the questions box and we'll answer them at the end. Okay, and now Kevin, liability from holiday disputes. What exactly could happen, there? Let's talk about
Okay.
what are you
When we
seeing?
talk about liability, we talk about two types of liability. We talk about general liability and directors and officers liability. Those are your two big exposures. When you talk about directors and officers liability exposure, you're talking about enforcement. The board has to enforce the documents. They have to enforce whatever the rules are for the association. Yeah, look at the rules, in terms of decorations, okay, in terms of holiday gatherings, in terms of the parties, because if you don't do it correctly, you're going to have discrimination, bullying, harassment, all those things become an end of play because how dare you treat me this way? We had this party every year for the past 10 years in the rec house and we started at 10 o'clock and lasted 2 o'clock in the morning. What do you mean we can't do this?
We can't
You
have the
know,
party this year. Exactly.
exactly. Because
Hmm.
we look at the rules and the rules says you can only have it from this time to that time. And
Hmm.
we have to stop it. We have a fiduciary responsibility to make sure the rules are followed consistently. And when you don't do it correctly, it is a DNO claim. We're talking about improperly installed decorations is probably the big area that we're talking about. Because if you live in an HOA, there's always somebody who wants to outdo somebody else, you
Right,
know?
of course, yeah. Bigger, better. Yeah, my neighborhood has a decorating contest. So everybody's
Yeah.
yeah, they give out the top three prizes, and some people are unbelievable. I mean, you wouldn't believe,
Mhm.
they probably start planning like a year in advance. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's okay to have it as long as it's within the guidelines that you set forth in the association. Association
Hmm.
has guidelines for decorations, and you have to enforce it. enforcement issues is the number one problem for liability because if you don't enforce them, then guess what? That guy who says, wait a minute, how come you allow unit number X to do it and I'm in unit number B and I can't do it? Or
Right.
I live on Walnut Street, but this person on Chestnut Street couldn't do it. And you
Mhm.
were after me. I'm tired of your harassment, I'm tired of your bullying, and you're discriminating against me. So now all of a sudden you're taking that one area idea that's pleasing everybody who has the best looking association, and now it turns into something that's a mess and a nuisance. So
Absolutely.
number
And
one is
Kevin, I
D&O.
saw, I saw, just want to mention a quick thing
Sure.
I saw a couple sued a homeowners association in Idaho, I believe, and
Hmm.
they alleged religious discrimination. They
Yeah.
wanted to do like a giant nativity scene with live
Yep.
animals and thousands of lights. And I guess they had done it for a few years in a row, and the association said, no, you can't do it this year. And so they sued, and 7 years later, it was still being discussed, 7 years
Yeah.
later. So
Hmm.
that could get really
Yeah.
expensive, very
Yep.
expensive.
Yep. Yep. And we'll talk about ways to get around that when we go through some of the solutions for some of these issues. So that was number one, the D&O. Now we talk about the GL claims. The GL claims is simple. You have more guests in that association, so you got more chances of having people there that get hurt. You got more slip and falls. You got alcohol related issues. Parking lot and garage exposure has really going to increase during the holiday season because
Hmm
people want to park in visitors parking, they're parking handicap parking. You have more accidents because people are going in and out. And again, alcohol changes a lot of people. And
hmm
when you get alcohol involved, you're talking about assault and battery. So you're talking about a group of exposures there that we really haven't had before, that we don't see normally. So D&O, which is the enforcement, and GL, which is you have a group of people there that not normally are there. And so you got parking, you got garage issues, slip and falls, um, alcohol related issues. Those are your big deals when it comes to your liability concerns.
Absolutely. And I just think of the Northeast this time of year, and even California,
Yeah.
we're getting snow in the mountains.
Yes.
Northeast got a lot of snow this past week or last week, and people are like walking down a sidewalk, a snowy sidewalk, or icy, and
Yeah, and that, again, you're right. This is just because it's not even holiday related. It's that now all of a sudden and it's darker. So it's
yeah,
darker more.
they leave
So
a
it's just
party, Christmas
yeah.
party, and they're
So people will, so you don't see every day certain things you don't miss. And if it's not lit properly, association is not lit
mhm.
properly. Now it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and it's dark. Where 3 months ago at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun's out, everybody's happy. So it's a lot there. And again, if you do not enforce the rules, if you don't maintain it, though these are two of the three areas we're talking about, enforcement and maintenance. If you don't do it, you're talking about a liability claim and a liability claim that can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars.
hmm Absolutely. Sidewalks aren't cleared, that kind of a thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm,
yeah, yeah.
mhm. Absolutely. And then of course, Kevin, we talked a little earlier about crime, the crime and security concerns. I mean, this time of year, packages are being left on the front door, FedEx
Mm-hmm.
packages, UPS
Yeah,
packages,
yeah.
all that stuff. And crime go spikes during the holiday season normally. So, you
Yeah,
know,
and crime is something that listen, the criminals know that first of all, you're not as focused and you're not
hmm
as aware because you're just busy. We're all busy during the holidays.
hmm
We worry about our dinners, we worry about our packages, and so we
hmm
take our eye off the ball a little bit. So when we talk about crime, we talk about criminals are out there again in that parking lot trying to steal stuff when we grab things out of the car. We have an influx of special people that comes in. We may have Airbnb people coming in, we may have
hmm
renters coming in. We may have family members coming in. So what
hmm
happens is that there are also criminals are looking at all that stuff that's going on. And guess what they want to do? They want to get access to your gifts, access to your funds. They want to get it. Uh, and they want to get access to different areas that they haven't had access to it before because you are not aware you know.
hmm
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
all types of different. Yeah, I put in there about outdoor decorations. You know, we do hear about out. You put all these great Christmas decorations up. The next day,
It gets
people
stolen.
stole it. It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
It's gone.
Actually, in my neighborhood, somebody at Halloween, somebody had a big Halloween party going back to
Mm,
Halloween, and I guess there were teenagers at the party, and later on at night, somebody's giant inflatable, I forgot what it was, I don't know if it was a pumpkin or what it was, but somebody,
yeah.
poked it and they
Yeah.
ruined it. They basically vandalized it. So they were very upset, the family, because they had a
And, and one area too, you have vendors that come out. You have vendors that come out with their trucks, and the trucks loaded. Now they could be not doing just decorations, they could be do plumbers. They can be taking care of the electricians, be taking care of it, but the criminal element is aware. And they know that people are not aware. And so that's when things happen because of our inability to understand that the criminals out there, and it is just not set up to handle the criminal element. So you have to have a secure environment. So, and we'll
Mhm.
talk more about that as we talk about solutions.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And now, Karen, we're going to talk about employee and volunteer liability. Now, we're just talking about they'd asked us to volunteer, to help decorate the
Yep.
clubhouse for
Mhm.
the party, for the holiday party. So let's talk about that. They ask us to climb a ladder, to
Yep.
lift some boxes,
Yep.
somebody throws their back out, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And guess what? People, the violence part of it. So if you're an employee, you're a volunteer, guess what? You don't want to get yelled at because you're taking too long. You know,
Mhm.
I could be did it the way I want you to do it. They're all the colors are red. This would be red and blue and that well lit. So
Mhm.
you'll be harassed more. The employee will be harassed more because you are volunteer or you are an employee. You're
Mhm.
overworked, because no matter what you're going to do, it's way more than you thought you signed up for. You and your husband signed up for something. And again, if your job is to judge the people in there and say who has the best one, they're not going to like your decision.
Right, that's
You
true.
know,
That's another thing. Yeah.
yeah.
If you're voting on the best display, you know what I mean? They're gonna, yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and going back to it's the holiday, it's not just the holiday, but the weather times. It is darker, and so you're not going to be able to see as well. And so
Hmm.
it is your job to maintain the common area. It's 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It's different today than it was 4 o'clock in the afternoon just 2 months ago. So you have
Hmm.
to be aware. There's more exposure for employees and the volunteer. So the question I always says, if you have employees or volunteer, do you have a workers' comp policy? Do you have a
Hmm.
volunteer-centered workers' comp policy? You know,
Hmm.
so you got to make sure you're covered for these different kind of situations, so that when these five exposures come, that you're prepared for them. And right
Hmm.
now, a lot of times you're not prepared for them. So we talked about property damage. That's your package policy. We talked about directors and officers. We talked about general liability. Okay. Now we're talking about workers' comp coverage.
Hmm.
Got
Hmm.
to have it. And the
Yeah.
next one is the one that nobody ever thinks about.
Cyber. Yeah.
Cyber.
Nobody thinks about cyber increasing
Cyber.
during this time of year, but it explodes during the holidays. It really gets busy. Yeah. They have a field day.
Wire transfer fraud, social engineering, check washing. One of the big things we're seeing now is easily to break into those mailboxes in community association. You got a whole row of them sitting there. Somebody comes in and just takes all the checks out, whitewashes them, checks them, clears them, and guess what happens? Because we don't do our monthly reconciliation of checks anymore, those things get lost, they get missed, and we don't until we get that phone call saying, "Well, where's my check? How come
Hmm.
I haven't got it?" So no, oh no. And then all of a sudden you find out that somebody has took the check and canceled. So right now, we have to be aware that cyber is a concern. People know that right now you are not aware of what's going on out there. You're not focused on it. So they want to send you emails that says, "Oh, guess what? Please pay these for the decorations. Here's my new bank and new routing number." Okay.
Hmm.
And what
Hmm.
happens is because it's only what $300 or $400 maybe, you say, okay, we'll send it to your new bank and routing number. And what do we find out? That bank and routing number is to the fictitious, you know, decorations person, whatever you
Mm-hmm.
call a decorations person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's happening. And there was a neighborhood in Florida that the mailboxes were being vandalized, opened up, and all the mail was
Yeah.
being stolen. And this time of year, Kevin, people are sending checks for Christmas, sending
Yes.
gift cards in the
Yeah.
mail, in a
Mhm.
Christmas card.
Mhm.
And yeah, so now they know that the mail is going to have a lot more value. So this entire neighborhood, I think, was being the thieves would hit it like once a month on different days. They'd steal all the mail.
Yeah.
It was a
Yeah.
big problem. Hmm.
Wow. And again, I put in there about social media. A lot of traveling. We do a lot of traveling over the holidays. But please don't put in social media that you're going to go to Hawaii for Christmas.
Right,
Because
exactly. I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks in Hawaii.
yeah, yep. And guess where? My key is under the little rock in the front.
Can you check my plants? What are my
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing my children, whatever. And
Yeah.
again, but
Yeah.
these are things that we don't understand or we forget during the holiday
Right.
season.
When you
We
post
know about it the rest of
your
the year.
vacation videos and pictures, here
Yes.
I am at
Yeah.
the beach having a great time. Hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we love sharing our lives to on social media, and we don't realize that everybody sees it.
right.
With not just the friends and family, but the people who are criminals. And they want to
Right.
go in there. Oh, guess what? She's going for 2 weeks now. Wow. Okay. Let me just scope out the area, find out
Hmm.
what day nobody's there. Maybe somebody looks at turn the light on, but then they go and they take into it. So
Hmm. Yeah, what comes to mind is the Home Alone movie, where
oh yes.
they think the house is vacant, and he's there and he has the mannequins and all that kind of stuff. Like they target the empty homes and people on
Mhm.
vacation. And social media makes it that much easier to know when somebody's gone. People don't
Yep.
think about it. Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So that's it. So
Absolutely.
um
Yeah, and I would just want to mention if you have any questions, again, my email is sherry.branson@amwins.com. So feel free to email me your questions or type them in the questions box at the end. And now we're going to talk about holiday risk prevention checklist. What should people have as their checklist, Kevin?
okay. Number one, you got to be able to communicate effectively and enforce these rules. Okay. Communication, enforce the rule consistently. The number one problem that we see on a DNO side is arbitrary enforcement of documents, arbitrary enforcement of the rules. So if you're consistent about it, I don't care if you agree or don't agree with them, but you have to be consistent. So one thing, Sherry, you and your husband have to do is just be consistent with your rules. Okay? Consistent in enforcing the rules. That's number one. Number two, inspect all decoration and electrical system. Just inspect them, just to make sure. Now, you're not electrical engineer, okay?
No, no, no.
But if something is frayed or not. Something's plugged in too many different sockets.
Right,
So you
right.
got to just be
Overloaded.
aware. Yeah.
Hmm.
Say, wait a
Hmm.
minute, this is kind of tough. Now, you again, because we live in a community association, they may yell at you and say, "Can I see your contractor's license that tells you your electrical contractor's license?" So no, but my job is to give information. If you don't want to listen to me, fine. But I'm not going to be the one who gets sued because I failed to notify you of the electrical current that you have is probably overloaded.
Hmm.
Um, got to have strong lighting. You got to have a security presence because again, if cars get broken into and it's not well lit, you don't have a defensible position. At the end of the day, you want to have a defensible position. So that's a key. That's a key. Um, training, training for your board members, training. So right now, Sherry, you and your husband want to get involved in here, then you're going to have to be able to get at least a little bit of training so
Sure.
that you can kind of get a good idea about how to handle these things.
Hmm.
And to me, the most important one is let everybody know your guidelines. You know, you have to have guidelines there to say, this is what we're going to do. This is how the holiday should be treated. These are things that you can do and you can't do. And then you go back to number one, which is communicate and enforce them. So it kind of goes back to where we're at. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's
Absolutely.
where we're at though. So that's kind of our my information to you, Sherry. So when you and your husband get together, you can say, we understand. and we're not going to do it.
We decided we're not going to volunteer this year.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, it's
But if you decide to do it now, you know how to do it in an
mhm.
effective way. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard situations where like a retired like you said, electrical engineers in a neighborhood will say, "Oh, I'll handle the holiday lighting or I'll handle the, the decorations." And but that's, that takes on a lot of responsibility or puts a lot of responsibility on a volunteer's shoulders. So that's where workers' comp is so important and to make sure
Yep.
who who the volunteers are, that are doing the work.
Exactly.
hmm And now, Kim, we're going to talk about our final thoughts. We had some great information to share with everybody today. And I did want to mention that I'll be sending an email out a couple of days after the webinar with our slides and with a recording of today's webinar. But if you'd like something a little quicker, you can send me an email, sherry.branson@amwins.com. I'm happy to email you the slides right away. The recording takes a few days to download. So, Kevin, let's talk about our final thoughts on, how to make it safe for everybody and how people can just be aware of the risks and the liabilities and, just have a nice relaxing holiday.
Sure. Listen, at the end of the day, it's you can have an enjoyable holiday season. You can have an enjoyable time. All you have to do is make sure that you maintain the association, that you focus on the maintenance, that you make sure the rules are enforced consistently, uniformly, and not arbitrarily like a lot of associations are doing, and make sure that you're aware of what's going on in the financial point of view, the money part of it. Make sure it is being handled correctly. Make sure you don't overspend. You do have a budget there, how much money you can spend on decorations. Don't overspend it. And make
hmm
sure you have enough there and make sure it's protected. Make sure that if somebody comes in and tries to use social engineering to get the access to the operating account, the reserve account, you have insurance for it. So at the end of the day, you make sure you're aware of it and make sure you have insurance coverage. So all five of the exposures we talked about today, there's insurance for it. There's property insurance for the property damages. There's liability for the D&O and for the general liability. There's workers' comp for employee and volunteer related, and there's cyber coverage. So if you understand that, guess what? You can enjoy your holiday, relax, take it easy, and we look forward to 2026. Thank you for watching it. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you again next month.